What is your opinion on there seems to be a little of the people I speak to, and this is all I do all day long is talk on the phone with people, but there seems to be a little bit of a divide in the flamenco world between the modern group and the old school people, right?
Yeah, it keeps growing, the gap is opening up.
Yeah, and does that gap need to exist? Or what's your opinion of that gap?
Well, the thing is, if you want to be creative, you need to get away from the traditional material and traditional way of playing, of singing, and dancing. But then the gap grows, right? In my opinion, it's not a problem. I think people need to find new ways. That's why flamenco still exists. If everybody played the same stuff as Ramon Montoya, for example, for the last century, there was no Paco de Lucia, no Nino Ricardo, nobody else. Then flamenco would not really be so prominent on today's music scene, because it would kind of be the music for the Spanish that would they are the only ones who can understand it. But flamenco took a different path, and there were other influences because of many things, many players that happened that were how do I say this, that were experimenting, especially in 60s and 70s and 80s, and Paco de Lucia, of course, is the most known among them. I don't want to say that he is the person responsible for all of that, because there was time for great change, and he was just the guy who was leading.
Okay.
But so flamenco would never be so popular without John McLaughlin, El Di Meola, and all the rest that happened.
Gypsy Kings.
Gypsy Kings, exactly. That started after Entre Dos Aguas, and But I don't think it's a problem, because traditional flamenco is like a separate art form right now, and I don't think it is. I don't think it is changing, and I think it is very important to keep that tradition going. And even every guitarist that innovates, that that does something new these days, still has to know that. For example, if you know the discography of Paco de Lucia, you see the albums, progress musically, like Almoraima or Solo Quiero Caminar. There is this whole evolution. But when you see his recordings with Camarón of the same time, he kept it a lot more traditional than what he was doing, and that's very important to do, because if you lose connection with the tradition, it's over. It goes somewhere else, and it becomes different art form.
So is Paco then sort of a model then of somebody who wants to be creative in the flamenco process, to have some kind of foundation and roots in the traditions themselves, and then figure out new ways to take? You can't just start at the, what if somebody wanted to start off, they heard Paco de Lucia and said, this is where I want to start learning how to do this. That's probably the wrong place, right?
Oh, that is definitely the wrong place. And yet a lot of players in Spain, for example, they started with Paco de Lucia. That was the starting level.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah.
And then they can become great. I think if you start with something totally modern, totally technically difficult, without the understanding of the roots, then you're losing some sort of you lose the understanding of flamenco stands for. That you're not going to get. I think if you start with Paco de Lucia and the modern players, you can continue their path, but without being grounded in the roots. But they sound so good only because they know the tradition. They can accompany. They've played a ton of old school stuff, For example, when I met Tomatito, he would play some sabicas for me, some old Paco. They all grow up, you know, playing that, and that's why Tomatito is so good, because he knows the tradition.